with the unprecedented and explosive scene from inside of the Oval Office today, with Trump now facing a storm of criticism from international allies, top Democrats, and even some on the right. The day starting normally enough. You see Trump greeting Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the West Wing driveway this morning. The two men shaking hands and then walking in. But then both presidents headed to the Oval Office for what should have been a traditional photo op. The two were supposed to negotiate a mineral deal in Ukraine and possible security guarantees as it fights off Russia. Traditionally, it's a short, choreographed event, but it quickly went off the rails, devolving into a tense and very public exchange between Donald Trump, President Zelensky, and J.D. Vance. Now, the confrontation began when Vance tried to lecture Zelensky over diplomacy.
The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden of thumping our chest and pretending that the President of the United States' words mattered more than the President of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So he occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now the President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact
2015.
2014. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media.
That's when Trump interjected and began attacking Zelensky.
You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having
I'm not
cards.
playing cards.
Right now, you don't.
You're
playing cards.
Mr. President.
You're playing cards.
Serious.
You're gambling with the lives of
war.
millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country.
Then Trump and Vance claimed that Zelensky has been ungrateful.
Have you said thank you once this
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
have you said thank
Even
you?
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you
He's
can...
not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country's in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning. You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this cabinet.
We gave you, through
I
this
said thank
stupid
you.
president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military equipment,
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
Yes. What about
if you didn't have our military equipment,
You invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days. This is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks. Of course he has.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. All right, I think we've seen enough. What do you think? Huh? This is going to be great television, I will say that.
As a matter of fact, Zelensky has publicly thanked the United States numerous times, including at the beginning of today's meeting. Here's a picture of the Ukrainian ambassador with her face planted squarely in her hands. Perhaps how the world also felt watching this Trump-Vance meltdown. NBC reports that in the hour after the Oval Office meeting, the Ukrainians tried to reset. But the White House felt disrespected by Zelensky, citing he was, quote, shrugging and rolling his eyes. So Zelensky was asked to leave. No deal was signed, and the White House later saying Zelensky is not welcome back. The New York Times headline, Trump and Vance loudly berate Zelensky in Oval Office. Immediately after the meeting, numerous Democrats slamming Trump.
That was an embarrassment. That was an abomination. What you watched was American power being destroyed in the world as everybody watches President Trump become a lapdog for a brutal dictator in Moscow. What we just witnessed between Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and President Zelensky inside the White House was an ambush. It was a planned ambush designed to embarrass President Zelensky in order to benefit Vladimir Putin.
Notably, some voices on Fox also questioning whether the obvious winner in all of this is Vladimir Putin.
The only winner today, if there is no deal and if these two men leave, the only winner is Vladimir Putin, and the result will be more death, more destruction, because it will embolden Putin.
If you're Putin, I think you're liking what you're seeing. I think you're liking the way this is falling apart.
Joining me now is Ambassador Michael McFaul, former United States ambassador to Russia. Ambassador, what a colossal embarrassment to witness the President of the United States treat a fellow head of state inside of the Oval Office in such a disrespectful manner. How far have we fallen from grace?
As far as I can ever remember, I've never seen such a colossal failure of American diplomacy. This was supposed to be a good deal. It was supposed to be a good day. Both sides were happy with this minerals deal, and it could have helped to set the preconditions for a genuine negotiation to a peace deal, which everybody wants. The Ukrainians most of all, let's be crystal clear about that. But instead, it became this shouting match and relitigating what happened in 2016. And just like you said that earlier in the comments, there's one giant winner from all of this. This is Vladimir Putin. And the real question now is that by design or was that a mistake? Because sometimes when I hear President Trump, I think he's doing everything he can to appease Putin. And that is not in America's national interest. Let's leave aside Ukraine for a minute. We do not have an interest in emboldening dictators to attack their enemies, to neighbors, I mean, to annex their territory. That will embolden dictators all over the world. So I hope it was just got off the rails because of emotion. Sometimes I worry that actually Trump's on the side of Vladimir Putin. And if that's the case, we're in big trouble.
I mean, I don't think you really need to find better evidence, Ambassador, to kind of answer your own question when it comes to whether or not, as some people have said, Trump is Putin's lapdog. But some experts are also witnessing, including you, watching this interaction in the Oval Office and saying that this was an ambush, that it was a setup in order to bring Zelensky in to humiliate him publicly. Even Trump saying at the end before he took questions, oh, this is going to make great TV. But this is not just fictionalized TV. There are thousands, tens of thousands of lives that have been lost and that are at stake. So who really ended up looking like the fool at the end of this? Trump-Vance?
Well, I don't know if it was an ambush on purpose, but it sure felt that way. And I'm sure this will play great for their base. And it felt at times that that's what this was all about. You know, I used to work at the White House. I used to organize these kinds of meetings for President Obama. It is unheard of that the vice president would speak ever in these meetings, let alone with the cameras rolling for as long as this happened. So I don't know that to be true, but maybe it played well with their base, but it's not going to play well with the American people. And that's where I think Trump needs to pump the brakes a bit. 81% of the American people in a poll just last week said they do not trust Putin. So think about it. How many times have you seen a poll where 80% of Americans answer on the same side? That doesn't happen that often in our country today. And I think maybe they think this is good for their politics, but I think they may be wrong about that even as well.
You know, Ambassador, some of the shots that we're seeing on our screen include, if they pan out a little bit, there's a guy sitting on the couch next to J.D. Vance. His name is Secretary of State Marco Rubio. And he's conspicuously silent and saying nothing. His arms are folded, if you read body language, looking petulant himself. What was his value add in this? Because shouldn't he be participating? Shouldn't somebody be the adult in the room here?
That's a great question. And right after the meeting, he went out on Twitter and made a statement, praising President Trump. I get he has to do that. That's his boss. But I've known Secretary Rubio for a long time. He was part of my confirmation hearings back in 2011. He's been at this a long time. I know exactly what he said for all of his career until the last 4 weeks about Vladimir Putin. So he's either got to decide that I'm going to stay true to my principles and try to get this back on track, or he's going to go down in history as one of the worst Secretary of States in history. He will look horrible if he just capitulates and goes along with this. Now, I hope that he saw this as a mess, and I hope that the diplomats will take over. By the way, diplomacy is done better behind closed doors, not with cameras rolling. And I think it's really incumbent upon the Secretary of State right now to reach out to his Ukrainian counterparts, get the relationship back on track, sign the minerals deal, and resuscitate, which right now is incredibly broken bilateral relationship with Ukraine.
And what are United States allies thinking as they witness what happened, the chaos that happened today in the Oval Office, and they see how a foreign head of state is being treated by the President of the United States?
They're horrified. They've said it publicly. And this, I want to be clear, we're talking not just about any head of state. We're talking about the democratically elected leader of a country that has been invaded for no reason by a dictator who's annexed his territory, who's killed, as you rightfully said. Thank you for reminding people. We're talking about lives lost here.
Yes.
20,000 Ukrainian kids have been taken to Russia. These are crimes against humanity that this man is standing up against.